Hello, friends. This is the program Empire of Lies, where we talk about manipulation and disinformation by the Kremlin media, Russian TV, and the Alaska Summit, how Moscow turns negotiations into a propaganda victory. In August 2025, Russian television synchronously built a single narrative around the upcoming meeting between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump in Anchorage. The program's Big Game, Sunday Evening with Solovyov, and 60 Minutes demonstrate how Moscow uses diplomatic pretexts for domestic mobilization and international legitimization. 1. From military threat to freedom of hands. The program opened with a statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry. Russia is no longer bound by self-restrictions on the deployment of medium and shorter-range missiles. The hosts emphasized that this is a forced response to the actions of the United States, and the summit with Trump is a chance to consolidate a new balance. Key points. The United States was the first to withdraw from the 2019 treaty, which means Russia has the right to untie its hands. Russian missiles, Iskander, Zircon, Oreshnik, can now be openly deployed and even stationed in Belarus. Europe was mentioned as a target for a potential strike, but not as an independent player. This is a classic technique to create a sense of strength and readiness for escalation, so that any agreement will then look like a concession from the West. Second, Europe as an extra. In Sunday Evening, the negotiations were described exclusively as a duel between Moscow and Washington. Europe and Ukraine were presented in humiliating roles, trading places at the negotiating table and in hysterics. Main emphasis: Trump put Europe on the tariff chain, and now its place is on the sidelines. Kyiv is not considered a subject of negotiations at all, at most an object of pressure. The meeting in Alaska was presented as an opportunity to show who is the master of the global game. For the domestic audience, this is a demonstration. Only Russia and the United States decide the fate of the world. 3. The TV show of diplomacy. On the day of the summit, the emphasis shifted to dramatization. The viewer was shown hotels, planes, even Lavrov's clothes, a sweater with the USSR inscription, creating the effect of presence. Key elements: personal rivalry. Putin breaks isolation. Trump risks repeating Helsinki 2018. Ukraine is again left out of the equation. A second meeting, possibly with Zelensky, was presented as an unlikely detail. Europe is presented as weak and nervous. From the Daily Telegraph to The Economist, everyone allegedly recognizes Putin's victory even before the negotiations. In fact, the broadcast was structured so that the viewer felt triumph even before the results of the negotiations. By the way, this is also the first time in history, I probably don't remember, that meetings of this level during such a confrontation took place on one of the territories of the opposing countries at a military base. This is completely nonsense. Our Minister of Defense gets to the base, which is, in fact, a united Air Force army from Russia. And moreover, Trump, apparently, for the sake of the picture, transfers bombers, spirits, and so on there to create this entourage. These are all questions of secrecy, security. And now all this is aside. Now it is important to show the whole world at what level this meeting will be. Therefore, indeed, everyone has such, well, lofty, let's say, expectations from this meeting. I completely agree that the summit on American territory is a demonstration of the normalization of relations. This is a demonstration of the fact that there is no longer any need to talk about Russia's isolation, even in the West, not to mention the world as a whole, but in the West. And, of course, Europe is isolated in this situation. Not Russia, but Europe. The Alaska summit is a clear demonstration of Europe's isolation. Everyone welcomes this summit, except the Europeans. But we'll talk about that later. Why is this important for Europe? For European viewers, these programs are an indicator of how Russia is consciously creating an alternative reality, a world where NATO is disunited, Europe is helpless, and Ukraine's future is decided in behind-the-scenes deals. This media discourse is dangerous, not only for the domestic audience of the Russian Federation, but also for the Western one. It is designed to instill the idea that Europe always remains on the sidelines of big politics. You have been on the program Empire of Lies. Don't let yourself be deceived.